Hi everyone, and welcome to Turf Talk Down Under. I'm Angie, and with me today is Sall Grover. How are you going, Sal?
I'm really well, Angie. How are you?
I'm quite well too. This is Calvin in the background here. Hopefully he won't attack my head.
I'm having a whiskey, by the way. Just
Good work, good work.
in a week.
You've had a big week. You have finally launched the crowdfunder for your big case, Giggle versus Tickle. Now, for people overseas or anyone here in Australia who doesn't know why this case is so important and what it's about, could you just give them the rundown, please?
Cool. I'll start by saying it's Tickle v Giggle, and that's important because I'm not taking to court. I am responding to a court case. So basically, I created and run a female-only social network that's offline at the moment, but has been online for 3 years and will be online again soon in a new and improved form, still female-only. But out of the tens of thousands of men who always tried to get onto it and were never permitted on, some who, I don't know if all these men think they're women or not. I have no idea. They're just men. But one who does say that they're a woman decided to do a human rights complaint against me in beginning of 2022. To settle that, I would have had to allow him onto the app, allow all men who claim to be women onto the app, go to sex and gender. I call it re-education. It's education, but it could only be re-education. And also moderate how women speak on the app, so not to offend men who claim to be women. And so I was like, I'm not agreeing to any of that. That's nonsense. Like 100% across the board, no. So I didn't go to conciliation, and knowing that by saying no and not doing that, you run the risk of having a federal court case against you, because that's the next step from the Australian Human Rights Commission. So you have 60 days from when the Human Rights Commission wraps it up to be able to file in federal court. And that did happen on the 61st day. So we were preparing to go to federal court last year, and then he withdrew it. It stopped about 6 weeks or a month in. Maybe it was only about a month in, actually. It wasn't that long. So we hadn't yet had to respond. It was like days before we had to respond to it. And then on December 22 last year, sorry, he filed again. And just random anecdote with that, how I found out about it was on New Year's Eve. The Guardian broke the story that it was happening again. I hadn't been served. I didn't know. I was like reading the Guardian article going, what, is this true? Am I going to federal court? Turns out, yes, when I got served like mid to late January, yeah.
That's so nasty to do it just a few days before Christmas. It seems really personal to do that, to try and sort of unsettle someone's Christmas.
Well, to be fair, I didn't know, because I don't sit there checking the federal court website, so I didn't know. But wrecked New Year's Eve, that's for sure. So I found out like about 11 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Eve. And so, I called our barrister who was on board last time. I had a legal team within 15 minutes. It was like all hands on deck. Then had to wait to get served, obviously. So then that happened. Anyway, yes. So then we have to crowdfund for it. And it is an expensive case. And part of the reason why it's an expensive case is that our defense is going to be a constitutional challenge. So we're going to challenge gender identity in the Sex Discrimination Act, which has been a long time coming. No one has done it yet. Not because this has not been causing havoc in women's lives. It's just, court cases are hideously expensive. This gender identity in the Sex Discrimination Act has been used to intimidate a lot of women, and that have just sort of gone along with it. There are businesses, certain gyms and things like that have just caved. And so we're sort of the first ones that just went, no, we're not going to cave to it. We're going to do a challenge. And so, here we are. And so, we built our own crowdfunding site. The reason we did that is because if we go by what's happened to lots of women around the world who are fighting this sort of stuff, they get kicked off. And in the UK, they have, I think it's crowd justice, but it's only for you. You've got to be a UK resident to be on it. And that seems to be pretty good, but we don't have that here. And so just rather than risking it or just not having control over it, just having it, you know, just that we could be there all the time going, oh, please don't kick us off. Please don't kick us off. And because I have been kicked off Kickstarter, I'm banned from Kickstarter.
Wow.
That I was like, well, you know, we had the development team building the new platform. And so we could just redirect them for a few weeks, what was supposed to be 4 days and turned out to be 4 weeks, because that's just how developers work. They have no concept of time, but love them, but yeah, they just have no concept of time. So they built our site, which is really cool. So it's gigglecrowdfund.com. And so we have like 100% ownership and control over this. Like you can't, you know, cancel us this way.
Could that maybe be a service that you'll offer in Giggle, like, you know, in the new Giggle? Because there's a lot of us who worry about
whether we talked about, we don't quite know what we would do with it yet. My plan is definitely, like, we've got the infrastructure here now. We've got to do, like, may as well do something with it. So we'll definitely open it up to other women. Whether it wouldn't be something that we would put in the new platform. And the reason is that the platform is strictly female only.
Yeah.
And so in a crowdfunding situation, you know, you want to open it up to men and women.
Yeah.
So it would be limiting doing one that was just in a female only environment, because that, you know, that is a situation where it's like sex doesn't matter if you're contributing to something, you know, things like sometimes sex is irrelevant. That is one of them. But you want one that is just supportive of women and, you know, and to be fair, of men, because there are men who are, you know, in Australia, you know, we had Brett who had, you know, had employment situations from this sort of stuff and potentially, you know, would have needed crowdfunding. So I don't really, I think we could just have a platform in Australia that's just, for lack of a better phrase, gender critical.
Yeah, for people that have been cancelled. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and just for that, and it's just there if they want to use it. So in sort of some like non-profit kind of way, if we can set it up where it's just like, just there to use, we'll work out how to do that. I don't know how all that will work, but we'll work it out.
So the beauty of this constitutional challenge is that if you win, then sex self-ID is basically overturned. And that is massive.
Lovely thought, isn't it? Just think of just think about it, and I'm just like, oh.
As someone who can't leave her house without seeing an autogynephile, it would be great.
Yeah, it's the dream.
Look, but that's what people have got to get behind you. Like, you know, this is not.
I will say, there is a clear pathway there. At the end of the day, there's two things that we have on our side. One is reality. It's a pretty cool thing to have on your side in the court of law. And the other one is international law is on our side. So I'm not that intimidated by the long fight. The shorter one, one of the best pieces of advice that my barrister did give me was some days we'll have these great little wins and you'll just feel really, really great with it. Like something just good will happen. And then other days you'll just feel like the world is caving in, this is horrible. And you'll never, ever want to do litigation ever again by the end of it. Like I've never been involved in any sort of like court case, anything. Like the most I've ever engaged a lawyer before this was for like when I was living in America and I had to have a visa. So I had an immigration lawyer and that was stressful. But I mean, I've not been divorced. I mean, I haven't been married, but like I haven't been divorced or anything. Like I've never dealt with anything. And so, yeah, to be thrown into litigation this way is pretty interesting, learning as I go.
I think your barrister gave good advice. I've been in court for 5 years against an actual Nazi. And, you know, there has been tremendous highs and lows and, you know, and it's cost a hell of a lot of money and, you know, a lot of different barristers and solicitors coming in and out of the process. And, you know, and that was actually meant to culminate a week ago and it's been adjourned again. So, but, you know, the process itself, you know, you do really learn a lot from it and it can be tedious, but overall, you know, once you begin to understand how the system works, even though it may work against you, it is quite empowering. You know, you do know, your fear about, you know, being taken to court and things like that, it dissipates because you understand the system.
No, definitely. And like, you know, I will say, you know, I have belief in the legal system in the sense of, I think everybody deserves like a fair trial and, you know, a fair go, the law and everything. And that goes like for my opponent here. I am fully like on board, like you deserve a fair trial as much as I do. We're completely equal in that. And so, you know, that's why I try very hard to like just be as fair-minded as I can with it. And there's nothing to gloat about yet or anything other than having reality on our side. That is something that it's really important to me, because sometimes like in this fight, and you would know this, when, you know, we're just getting gaslit every day, some days more than others, where it is quite overwhelming, especially when you go, like some days when I go like, I'm being taken to court about whether men are women. And it could cost $1 million. It's just that they're not. I mean, it isn't just craziness. So I have this firm grip on reality. Like I won't let go of it.
Yeah.
I listen to, like I can't even really enjoy like fictional TV shows or anything at the moment. Like I'm very much like documentaries or like news-based things from like trusted sources. I just have to stay in reality. I can't get lost in anything. That's one of the way I've noticed that in the last few months, if that's like one way how it's like just manifesting in my behavior.
I just find it interesting that, you know, your opponent, a lot of people like him get funded by like Human Rights Council or grants or things like that. And, you know, to defend yourself, you have to fundraise. You know, you're a charismatic, intelligent, you know, give you a few compliments here, but you know, you have a lot of you have a lot of assets that you can use to people to support you. But you know, you can imagine that there are people who genuinely, you know, don't have your reach, or you know,
exactly. So that's the thing. Like as I was saying before, like, so first of all, like I mean, everybody, like everyone should be able to go and like raise money to fund their court cases and whatnot, even if I don't agree with those cases. So like, you know, Godspeed, all power to him. But no, in terms of other women in Australia who have been intimidated by gender identity in the law and it has been used against them, whether it's, you know, privately owned what were female only gyms that have just had to cave to it, lots of different female organizations like domestic violence shelters, things like that, that just they don't have the reach, they don't have the funds. It's what, shut down or give in. And so they're going, well, at least we can still offer this service, but then they're just offering such a compromised service. And look, at the end of like, if you want to create unisex domestic violence shelters, to me, it's like selling like, you know, umbrellas with holes in it. Like it's like an odd decision, but I mean, if you want to do it and there's a market for unisex domestic violence shelters, okay. I just think that alongside that, we have to be able to have female only.
Yeah.
There's lots of trans only organizations, lots of trans only platforms, all different things. I mean, there is a social network exclusively for furries. It has like 50,000 daily users, but it's exclusive. It's online. It's called like, I keep saying, every time I go to say it, I say Zootopia, but I think that's a cartoon. It's something like ridiculous like that. It's Zoo something. It starts with a Z, I'm sure. But anyway, it's a social network exclusively for furries. Now, like with stuff like that, most people, 99% of the population, 99.9, let's say 100, we self-segregate from it. So it gets to exist and no, they don't get people invading it and saying, oh, this is wrong or whatever, because we just go, oh, not for me. But when we started a female only online space, and I have to say, I started it not knowing anything about this stuff. But we just knew that there would be men that would want to come on. So we just knew there had to be like a barrier gateway thing. So we created all of that. I just didn't realize that it would be men who claim to be women and everybody just agrees that they are, or not everybody, that this like fraction of society agrees that they are. And if you don't, you know, you're Hitler.
It's crazy.
It's stupid.
Mm.
It's so stupid. So
However, I think more and more women are standing up to it, and you know, maybe you've been a bit of an example, like particularly since Kelly J's come. Like, we were in a space today and there was a forensic psychologist saying, you know, I'm being forced to use pronouns and I'm not going to do it, and bring it on. And I've, you know, had other women get into my inbox and say, oh, you know, blah, blah, blah is trying to make me do this, and I don't care. They can take me to a tribunal. So, you know, they're not as public as you, but you're going to be the first one who's public, which is going to encourage more and more women to stand up to this ideology.
If it would be my thing, if I could say to any woman, like, what you're taking from this, it's stand your ground. So the process is the punishment. And like, I was talking to a council member yesterday who's sort of in the process of being punished. And I was like, it just gets better. And I was like, I'm saying this as someone being taken to federal court. So I'm like, you don't really have to believe me that this gets better. Like, it doesn't. But it does, in the sense that actually, even with all this stuff and how crazy and horrible it is, oh, it's so lovely just being able to freely say the truth. I find this a lot easier. And I think with Australian women, was so many more are waking up to what's happening. And then there's us that have been around for a few years that know that if anything does happen to them, where they do need to like raise money for court and everything, we're all going to like just contact us. We're all going to be there to help.
And
And
for sure.
So like it will happen. So I just think, in terms of the fear of like the expense of it or anything like that, like, just don't let that be a fear. Because if, you know, and there are funds out there, like different places. We don't tick any diversity boxes. So I don't think there's many funds that will fund us. Yeah, there's no turf box, but and because what was once maybe like a woman was a box that would tick, it's men that have funding now. So yeah, that's really one of the things that needs to be fixed, that will be fixed. The constitutional challenge. But yeah, I just think that if any woman I'll just be like, just do it. Just
yeah,
go all in, because it's worse by not doing it. It really is. If you got the being silent, it's just going to eat away at you. Like, I understand everyone's got mortgages and bills to pay. Like, I get it. We've all got livelihoods and careers that people have worked, you know, their whole lives for. And the idea of giving them up is just unfathomable. I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying, if you can, and you're in this situation, just do it. You'll get so much more from it. It's like my thing with like so many journalists and politicians at the moment. I'm like, there is this whole like amazing career awaiting you. And you're just going like, nah. If I was a politician right now, I would go all in on this stuff.
Or journo, yeah. Because the first one to break ranks from the lefty side is just it's gonna make the career, and it's gonna be someone from the ABC, you know, the worst offender. Someone from there is going to defect, and you know, then to do a Nolan investigates type thing on all the gender stuff, and we've been trying to bring this to you for years, when they haven't.
I wonder if it'll be just like crazy plot twist, and it'll be like Samantha Maiden.
Oh no! Oh,
we'll be like, whoa, didn't see that coming.
Samantha Handmaiden. I don't really want to have to start following her again.
Oh, she blocked me.
Yeah. What do I call her? Disgraced hack, Samantha Handmaiden.
Yes. The only time I've had like anything to do with her is, you know, when like last year when the story broke with Kath Deves, it's like breaking news, Kath Deves is a transphobe. And, you know, we were all knew exactly what she was talking about. So this wasn't breaking news to any of us. But she wasn't running on any of these issues or anything. And just suddenly it was like, Kath Deves has said women should have female-only sport. Oh my God. You know, just what a horrible person. I emailed Samantha Maiden just because I did, you know, when you just think it was just like the first day it happened, I thought, oh, this will die down really quickly because idiot over here, the optimist. I just sent her an email and I was just like, here's some links like that actually back up everything Kath's talking about. Like, it's all here. She's not telling a word of a lie. Because when I was brought into it, and like, you know, I had the attacks and I was like, God, what's going on? And I was like, I want to see if what these women are saying are true. And I just went and Googled it all and researched it. And yeah, they were all telling the truth. So like, you know, pay it forward. Like if you just click on these links and read, and then just go and do more of your own research, you will find out that Kathy's telling the truth. And no, she blocked me instead.
Yep. Yeah. And now that's a pattern. Now we see that all the time. You know, when the first couple of times it happens to you, you go, nah, you know, it couldn't happen. You know, even this whole thing with Dan Andrews getting on TV and say, oh, we can't show you any pictures or any footage or any proof, but the women that were at that rally were also Nazis. Until it happens to you, you don't actually, you know, you hear about this sort of weird lying and cancellation, but you think, no, these are public figures, or these are respected journalists, or these are people with integrity. And then when it happens to you, you go, holy shit, you know, these people are nuts.
Totally. Like, I have a master's degree in journalism. So I've not worked too much in the field, only a little bit freelance here and there, non-byline stuff.
Yeah, same.
But like, I was taught how to do it. And so what was this, 2005 and 6, I did journalism. And so I learned it all. And like, one of the things, gosh, I mean, this seems like a bygone era. We're told that if you have a willing source for your story, you speak to them.
Yes.
That has just gone out the window. Now you can be like, there will be people writing stuff about this, and you know, you do the same thing where just banging on the door, going like, here, I'll give you a comment about what actually happened, and they're just nothing.
Yeah, the articles about Kelly J's tour, you know, their sources were trans rights activists that weren't even at any of the events. So their articles that were supposedly about these events, and yet they were from people that didn't even attend them, talking about how hurt they were by what happened at them. Like, it's not journalism by anyone's definition. It's just nuts.
I've said this so many times now, and I'll just keep saying it. These stupid fuckhead Nazis that turned up succeeded in silencing women. On what planet are we on the same side?
They're on the same side as the trans rights activists.
Well, if you're going to go through like an actual checklist of Nazism, and just in a few things like propaganda, guilt by association, unnecessary medical experiments on children,
phobia, yeah. But you know, these lies have consequences. Like just this week, there's been quite a few academics who have been targeted. Holly Lawford-Smith, you know, obviously, like she's had stickers and posters targeting her and her students placed up on her campus.
Just quickly on that, there was 2 posters, and one of the posters said, like, just the subject of feminism in general has a history of transphobia, like just cancel the subject of feminism. And then the other poster was no transphobes teaching feminism. And it's like, it's kind of get your story straight. Like, wouldn't, by the virtue of the first poster, wouldn't only transphobes teach it?
But yeah, you know, so there's this campaign on campus, and, you know, have the dean or anyone else come out in support of Holly? No, not yet. But there's also other academics around.
I emailed the dean.
Oh, good.
I actually emailed him. Oh, do you want me to read? Let me see. Hang on, no, I emailed him, and he actually sent me, I mean, non-committal, but I'll read it. Like, it's fine. Maybe I'm not going to remember where it is. Okay, yeah, I can't remember where it is. I might have actually even accidentally deleted it. He was actually just really lovely, because I just sent him an email being like, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by saying that men aren't women. You know this, we all know this, like bugs know this. But you know, I was put Holly and yada yada yada, and he wrote back and he was like, I take note of everything you're saying and I don't disagree, or something to that effect.
I've also been notified by 2 different lots of students that certain other academics, including ones that have appeared on this channel, have been targeted since the Melbourne event, because now anyone who has at any time ever been associated with myself or Stasia or anyone else who was at the event is a Nazi. So students are contacting me saying, there's groups on these campuses that are about to start a campaign against these academics. It's crazy. Like the lunatics are running the asylum.
They are. And then, also I go, like, they're also just not very bright. Because if you were to go by, say, Kathleen Stock as the example of what we're seeing Holly right now. If Holly gets the opportunity, and if she does, she just goes like, I'm done with this, and resigns, she's only going to become more famous.
Yeah. And she's also going to have really good legal grounds for dismissal or being forced to leave. Yeah. And she'll get a handy payout.
Like, that's why sometimes with stuff you think, sometimes you think like you're just handing us these opportunities. I mean, we've got to take them, obviously. That's a huge thing to do.
Yeah. Every time one of them does a hit piece on me, one of the trans rights activists does a hit piece and puts it on Twitter, I get more followers. Like, everything they do is ultimately an own goal. They're just starting to wake up to it. Taking court. I mean, it's an own goal.
I think the own goals are only going to increase because, I mean, before we started recording, we were saying this, like, one scary thing is at the moment that the violent threats in real life are increasing in the last, if we just go like Kelly J in Australia, Kelly J in Auckland, then what Riley Gaines dealt with last night at San Francisco State University, I think it was.
Here in Melbourne, one of our owners was pushed over in the middle of the day and had her shoulder broken. We've had, that we've all been close to being assaulted at certain protests and things here in Melbourne, because Melbourne's quite an angry kind of city, So it's no surprise to me that the violence is escalating.
Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate own goal. I mean, they're just going and proving a point. Stupid can you be? You would think they'd go like, oh guys, can we just like recalibrate all this because we're just proving them right. We need a new tactic. And they're like, no, double down. But when you're dealing with people who say men or women, everything's fair game. There's not going to be any other truth. There's no truth told, no logic used, no rationality, nothing. We're just dealing with the most irrational people who have no concept or respect for reality.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Once someone says, I believe a man is a woman because he says he is, I've lost all respect for them. I don't expect to engage in any rational debate. I was a bit shaken tonight, though, because one of the militant trans rights activists has dug down deep into my history. About 10 years ago, I wrote an article to a newspaper. And this wasn't the fact that he dredged up this article and misrepresented it by hacking half of the letter off. It was the fact that he now knows which town I live in. So that kind of unnerved me a little bit, because in a way, that's what they do. They want you to be unnerved. I don't think he's going to come and pay me a visit. If he does, he'll be sorry. But, I worry about some of the more unhinged people that I saw at that event who were making direct threats towards me, and that what they might do with that information, because there was clearly some very mentally ill people there, and I'll make threats.
I mean, I was saying to you before, last night I woke up from a dream that they were trans activists were like following me, like, and live streaming, like following me. And then I was like getting changed in my room, and I looked in the window and they were there. And that's like when I woke up with a jolt. So there's obviously something in my psyche right now that's just, just processing stuff of like, there's a fear of them that is escalating that I'm probably not addressing. So I'm just, you go on sort of tunnel vision of like, just like eye on the prize, like just keep going. But this is, we're just, it's such an odd position to be in, to be fighting for female only spaces under the threat of violence.
Yeah.
Like, and that being said though, at the same time, I was saying this just to someone recently, I don't even need the threat of violence to argue for female only spaces.
Yep.
Even if every single man on the planet, ones who say they're women and ones who don't, but just every single man on the planet was like the safest, most brilliant guy ever, and we just lived in this utopia, it wouldn't matter. I'd still want them. Truth is truth.
Yeah.
Men aren't women. I think you can just win it based on that alone.
Yeah. And
I
it's
don't think we need to do the safety argument or anything, or even privacy. None of it else matters. We have to talk all the time to justify it, but I just think it's just men aren't women. End of story.
Yeah. And also, you know, people shouldn't have to justify their not wanting to be in male spaces with, you know, the fact that they've been sexually abused or something like that. They can just say no. They just don't need a reason. And, you know, women are expected to justify it.
Yeah, but even, plus you could be a woman that hasn't been sexually abused and you're just like, I don't like, I like female in these spaces. I don't like men in some scenarios. Cool.
Yeah.
Why do we have to sit there and sing for our supper about this? It's absurd.
It is absurd.
Men have male only spaces for dignity, privacy and recreation. And if one more man says to me, oh, feminists took away male only spaces, so you're getting what's coming to you? No, they did not. Feminists took away the male only spaces of the government and the boardroom. And they did that in the name of equality. Saying men can legally be defined as women and recognized as women is not in the name of equality. Because we are giving up our rights for men to feel validated / superior. It's the opposite of equality. This is not
these clowns that are insisting that men and women are exactly the same and then self-identifying into the opposite sex. So, you know, why? If we have complete and utter equality and everything's equal, and then why the hell do you want to be women?
I get this all the time. I'll get like a troll here or there, or just a trans activist that will say to me like, you know, like what are cis people supposed to look like? How do you even know? Blah blah blah. And it's just like, we all do. We've all, like for all of human history, we've known. It's how heterosexuality exists. It's how homosexuality exists, and bisexuality. It's because we just know on sight. We can tell who's a man and a woman. And even with transition, every now and then you might definitely, sometimes in photos, like online, like filtered photos, but from my experience where I was dealing with photos all the time, because obviously the onboarding selfie with Giggle, they're not filtered or anything. You're just seeing, the 5 o'clock shadow, you're seeing everything. I mean, you can tell. It's just so obvious. We've been told, these activists constantly are saying to people, you can't tell, you can't tell. And I think some people are actually internalizing that a bit and going, oh, maybe we can't. No, you can.
You can.
Like, and so the women who say they're men, slightly different scenario, in the sense that a beard does a lot of legwork.
And the male pattern baldness.
Does a lot. It does. That's a lot of heavy lifting happening there. But they're still small.
They are.
So I don't know. Like an increase of jockeys. I don't know. Like
I remember I introduced my former partner to another former partner, and I said, "Oh, you realise who that is?" And the person's a trans man, and he shook their hand and you know, didn't realise, had a nice chit chat, went back to the customer, you know who that was, and he goes, "Oh, I should have known she had small hands." And that was the only way that he could tell, you know, small hands.
If you're in a situation like, so two things about that, and they're in a way maybe seemingly contradictory, but I don't think they are. So you can have a situation where you're just sitting there talking to somebody, like shake hand, chatting to somebody, and your sex doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So it would be completely irrelevant if somebody is trans or not. But I would say almost that proves why trans is unnecessary, because your sex doesn't matter. It's just your personality that someone is engaging with. And then, but then on the other part of it is that situation where you go like, oh, hang on. So I thought I was talking to a man, or I accepted that I was talking to a man. I didn't think about it much, but I was just like, okay, face value, sure. And then you find out that you were not. That actual mental manipulation there is, to me, showing how bad this treatment program for gender dysphoria is, because it's inflicting something on everyone else.
It is.
I just think that, wouldn't it be great? I mean, there's no money in this, but wouldn't that be great if people with real proper gender dysphoria just actually had great talk therapy, and that got them to accept the only body they'll ever have and love that body and who they're, the unique person that they are, and celebrate that person and go out into the world and express themselves however they want.
Ideally, yeah. But, we can't even get basic mental health support for, serious things like, someone loses a child, real trauma, and the wait for mental health support if you're in the public system is 8 weeks,
But as one of the things after Nazigate in Melbourne, one of the things Dan Andrews did was like, we're doing more mental health support for trans because of the traumatic week you've had. And you're like, traumatic week? I'm like, you've seen that week Angie's had? Like, give me a break. Anyway.
It was a bit of a shocker of a week.
It was a week.
Trans rights.
Yeah. But my thing was, so you've got, so you put like $1 million or whatever, 900 grand or something for a short period of time for funding for just trans people to go and talk to a therapist. And I was like, but this is when you're in a state of affirmation only, this is not good. This is not actually mental health care. Because what if you'd actually had some people seeing what was happening and actually just their normal human instincts kicking in and going, oh, hang on. So wait, I haven't changed sex. These women are saying I haven't changed sex. Is that correct? And so then they go to a therapist, and the therapist is what has to, because affirmation only. No. You are a man or you are a woman, blah, blah, blah. So what a waste of money. What a waste of 900 grand. I could use it. Like, they're not actually getting mental health care. Like a proper situation would be like someone comes in and goes, actually, I'm hearing all these TERFs say I've not changed sex, but my doctor has said that I have, or my therapist has said that I have changed sex. Can we talk about this? And someone going, well, you haven't changed sex. The TERFs are actually correct. And it's really cruel and evil that someone has told you that you have. And so let's work through that and get to like some strength in how you feel now with whatever procedures you've had done, knowing that they actually haven't changed anything in any meaningful way. I can't believe we're the evil ones for saying this. So...
And even when there are counsellors now in my state, in Victoria, if you do not affirm, you risk losing your license.
Exactly. So it's the thing. People have bills to pay. There's probably so many therapists that are sitting there. They spend their whole lives working for this. It's so long studying for it and going, what are you doing? I mean, I'm being really like overly empathetic with that, I must say, because I just am very much like, you throw it all. If everyone just threw it all on the line, we could fix this in a year. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're back to normal. I think people going, oh, I don't want to do anything, is prolonging this. So I probably have to stop being so nice about it.
Well, you taking this case all the way, it will encourage other people to do so.
I hope so. Yeah, I just think, we need Australia sort of mayor for starter. And like my case isn't that in the sense that I'm not doing like a workplace thing, but there needs to be a workplace thing so that people can go, I'm not going to put fucking pronouns in my email signature. And I'm not going to or even just, I just think that, a woman should be like, say, you work in an office and you really love your job. And then, Barry, who's always been, you sort of quirky, great co-worker. You've always been a fan, you've always gotten along. And then he comes to work and Barry's decided that he's Brenda.
Happened to my friend. Yep.
And then he's going to use your bathroom, and then he's prancing around and all this stuff and blah, blah. And say if you are, you're tapped into all this stuff and you're just sitting there going, oh my God, Barry has brought his sexual fetish into the workplace and I'm supposed to play along with it. I think that she should be able to say no and not be punished for that. There's no other fetish you can take into the workplace.
Yep, my friend that happened to a friend of mine who thought I was a little bit of a bigot. He's sort of like, oh, I think you're overreacting about all this trans stuff. 6 months later, rings me out. My workmate, man in his 50s, he's an AGP and he's come out at work. And I go, oh, am I a bigot now? And I had a profound apology and I get it now. And this is it. People get it when it happens to them.
Yeah.
They get it, they peak instantly. And, because trans is the in thing and there's so many more of these AGPs coming out, it's impacting more and more people are peaking out. So,
Yeah, I mean,
but then what happens?
If I was working in an office Yeah, I mean, I get where if you're sitting there going like, I don't want to be the one bigot that stands up and be accused of that and lose your job. I get it. But like, just if there was, it's just going to take, it's the I am Spartacus moment, isn't it?
Mm.
And then if you just have then like the Mayor forced out a type case in Australia, and then the workplace is suddenly a bit better. It's still, the zeitgeist has to change, but
yeah, it's a really scary thing when you know that what an autogynephile is, and everyone else thinks of the nice sort of, fully post-op, transsexual, right? And being that person that knows what the AGP is a really difficult position to be in, because there's people there going, oh no, he's harmless and blah blah blah. And before the AGP is comfortable, when they first come out, they're all awkward and, oh, am I doing this properly, and am I passing, and of course gets all this validation. And of course the more validation they get, the more AGP they get, and they get more sort of sexualized and whatever. So people are like, oh, this poor transsexual is so confused, let's give him time and he'll become like a normal woman. They create the monster in that this person all of a sudden, turns into this entitled, invasive, hypersexualized, like horrible, frightening man. And they've practically opened the door for him.
I was actually shocked with even how many, like, TERFs, like the women who are called TERFs, weren't even completely across, like the ones that have newly peaked in the last little bit, and because there's more and more every day, that weren't even aware of autogynephilia. Like, it's amazing that some women are peaking and then they don't even know what that is. Because you don't actually even need it, because it's just, it comes back to reality. Men aren't women, bam, that's all. No one's born in one body.
How are the feminists telling me that I'm not even a feminist, and yet they're in spaces with AGPs all the time? Like,
Yeah, it's just a thing. Like, there was an AGP that I used to talk to occasionally. I won't say who it is, and anyone who's thinking like in their head, who I know that there'd be some people thinking that they know who I'm talking about, and so I'm just going to say no, it's not that person. But there was this person that I would occasionally talk to, and then one day he said to me in a DM like, oh, yeah, like this is sort of, I don't like he's on our side, but he's AGP. And he said like, I would detransition because I don't like what's happened, but I like my boobs too much. I just went like this. I just went, yeah. And I just was like, oh, I really wanted to be friends with you. I really tried, but I just can't. Yeah. I just can't. I'm so creeped out.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of AGPs.
I just don't know if me being polite was like, is it part of the fetish? Like, just even though I don't think you're a woman, but I'm being nice to you, does that help as well? Like, I don't know. And it's like, if you want to sit there and say how alienating it is for you, it's alienating for me too. I don't know how to interact here.
But TERFs talking to them is the ultimate validation. If you talk to an AGP and you're a TERF and you're nice, ew, they love it.
Yeah, because like I am actually a kind person. I do lead with that. I do try.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I talked to a couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I always say, like, in terms of this issue, I'll talk to the devil himself. So, like, I mean, I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah,
but not if there's a line. Like, if you've crossed a line with me where you've made me feel unsafe, or you've just severely grossed me out. I'm like, I've never been like known in my life as like a prude or anything like that. I mean, I spent my 20s being called a whore, and now I'm just like, it's now I'm just like sitting here going, oh, I think we've gone too far.
Yeah.
I just didn't think we were like, when I was like, yay, I'm all for sexual liberation. I just didn't think we were going to get to the point of men are women and they can get off on that and should be in your spaces jerking off in the bathroom to it, and like, don't say anything, you prude. Like, naive little me.
Yeah, I was thinking about an incident when I was like a young kid. I think I was about 13 or 14, and you know how horrible 14-year-old girls can be. Yeah. And I'd never, I wasn't popular at school at all. I didn't have a boyfriend until I was 17, and I'd never even really, I think I held hands with a boy, but I'd never been, intimate with a young man at that age. And someone wrote Angie Jones is a slut or something on the local underpass, right? And it was a guy who I rejected. It was because, you know, he said I was frigid to my face, but then he wrote Angie Jones is a slut.
Yeah.
And me and my mum, my furious mum, were down there scraping it off this local underpass, right? And I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking about this Nazi thing, and, you know, and it's the same thing. They just make it up and they put it out there in an attempt to shame and silence you. And
they know it's what they know you're not, and they know we all are. They know it will hurt, and it does. Like it, like, you know, on that Saturday in Melbourne, like, because obviously I wasn't there, but I was online. How I found out that it even happened was actually through Billy fucking Bragg.
Ew.
Oh God, isn't he the bearer of bad news in every which way? And then, you know, so I'd seen that and I'd engaged for a second with him, and then I went and like saw what was going on because I was watching the live stream, but it wasn't on the live stream.
It wasn't. That's why nobody watches the live stream. Nobody
the live stream was focused on the women, so I had no idea. And
neither did we.
Yeah, exactly. And so then, you know, so then like, and just in the days that followed, when you saw like what Dan Andrews was doing, and then what's Prosecco? What was his name? The
prosciutto.
Yeah. No.
Prosciutto, the meat.
Oh, just like poor imitation champagne. That's what you are. Fucking idiot. Watching what they were doing, it was so hurtful. Like it was just, I mean, I'm not in Victoria, but I'm just a woman in Australia and a woman in general. And it was just so hurtful because it was an event of let women speak, and they were doing the complete opposite. And they were just allowing Nazis to silence women.
And
they
so they're
played into the hand of these idiots.
Yeah, prominent feminists were at that thing too. You know, anyone could Google any of those women, and there would be absolutely no links with Nazis whatsoever. They'd be absolute opposite of Nazis.
I have no doubt in saying that you could go and read every single word that Holly Lawford Smith has ever written about feminism and philosophy in general, and find that she is 100% against Nazism. You'd find that about every woman that was there. It's such nonsense. And I do think this will come back to bite them all in the ass, because that reaction, how they all reacted, that's not going to be forgotten, because they kept doubling down on it to the point of suspending Moira. So it's there. And they suspended her for 9 months. It's there. It's actually, it's going to gestate for like a pregnancy length of time, which is sort of, what a coincidence.
That horrible guy on Q&A, that non-binary, made a crack about that, you know. So
it's like maternity leave that you could just
yeah. He was just, that guy was so foul. If a normal guy had said the things that he said, he would have been cancelled, like as badly as Mark Latham, who deserved to be cancelled.
Deserves to be cancelled 100%.
What that guy was, just as what that guy said.
Yeah, it's just as bad.
It was offensive. It really was. And yet he gets away with it because he's non-binary.
Exactly. This is the thing. It's just like, I'm not going to defend or justify Mark Latham, but I'm also not going to defend and justify these misogynistic pricks either. If you're homophobic and misogynistic, I'm going to call it out. Bam. There's no special cover here. I don't care. Like, and can we just for a second say about that non-binary, what's the swimwear brand? Sea Folly. Yeah. You know, and he's going on about how like he doesn't know whether to use the male or the female bathroom, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you are building a career posing in outfits where all you want us to do is look at your dick. It is like it's just every photo.
And he looks male.
I mean, he's just a dude. Like, and it's like if I was in the bathroom and he walked in, or change room or anywhere, I'd be like, not anywhere. I mean, female in this space specific. Yeah, I'd be like, well, you're not a woman. But I would say this about 100% of men who claim to be women, because even ones who have had extra hormones and surgery, you can still tell. I mean, I can tell with Georgie Stone.
Oh, yeah.
When he did the press conference the other day, it was just so, it's just a little, it's a young guy with long hair. And he's like a good looking, like cute guy. And like, I wish him well in life. He's just not a woman. And it is so cruel and evil that people have lied to him about this.
Well, his mum did the Susie Green thing, you know.
It's cruel.
It is cruel. It's all just awful. And did you see that one in the news this week, that former, you know, child model trans kid's now a porn actor?
Well,
God.
It's not a flourishing, great success story, is it? It's not like a great life that it's all led to. I do hate to talk about any one individual overall, so I try and like steer clear of it, but with that one, you would think that there would be people out there would go, hang on, maybe I should start looking into this a bit more. Is there some cautionary tales here? Because it wasn't like they always try and compare it to being gay, and it's actually the antithesis of that.
Yep.
And just say being gay actually wasn't innate. I mean, it is. It's just like, you know, it's just that homosexuality is as normal as heterosexuality. Just say, for sake of argument, that it wasn't. And so suddenly all these rights had been won, and then we're just finding out that basically everyone was just going into gay porn. Would we going like, oh, hang on, is this good? Or would we going like, oh, maybe this lives aren't flourishing here, like they're not reaching their full potential?
Well, people are getting into gay porn because they're getting into trans porn from straight porn.
There's that side of it, but I'm talking like a huge percentage. Like I'm talking if like it was just like they weren't going to like politics and business and stuff like that. It was just like porn. You'd be like, oh.
Well, a lot of young women are, you know, since the old OnlyFans, you know, they're lured into it and they make a lot of money in their first week, and then they don't make a cent after that. A lot of people have been lured into that, and this
I do forget that. I do forget it, but, you know, I think my point, no, I get what you're saying. I do that. Maybe I'm not articulating my point well, because I'm just sort of saying that, I suppose I'm using such a hypothetical, so it's probably not going to work. But just, okay, if we just use the trans thing, that if it's just becoming something where these people are sort of being lost, like I just think you can't ignore there's the demographic that is detransitioning and the demographic that's just sort of going into these very lost existences. Yeah. And they'll hold like, you know, these Chase Strangio ones and, you know, lawyer for ACLU up as this like pillar of success. And like, obviously he's a lawyer at the ACLU that is a successful person on paper. But this is still someone living a lie.
Yeah. Yep.
So I just,
and even the good ones, even, you know, the gender critical trans rights people like Buck Angel, Blair White, they're all living a lie.
I do wonder if there's some of the older ones that you know, they were treated like, you know, a few years, like, you know, a few decades ago with this. I do wonder if they go like now looking at what's happened going, how could this not be, if you've got genuine gender dysphoria, how is this not triggering all of that? Because all these people have to do now is talk about the reality of their biological sex. So what was the point of everything else? So it negates it. That's how flimsy the ideology is. Like, you know, I've been saying it all the time at the moment. Like we've been, in Australia especially, we've been really, really focused on self-ID laws because they're, you know, coming into Queensland and they're in Victoria and Western Australia they're coming into as well, blah, blah, blah. But it's, you know, obviously I'm against self-ID, but I'm actually also against someone who's had the surgery and hormones. Because women aren't men who have had surgery and hormones. We are our own distinct sex class. Like, I want it all overturned. I don't think anyone should be able to. I'm for if they want to campaign to have a trans like sex marker, like you can change your birth certificate to trans, that doesn't take away rights from anybody else. I am fine with that. Yeah. I'll help you campaign for it. And third space is whatever, cool. And so that your true identity can be reflected on your identification. Cool. Because if you are going to go and have all of the surgery and everything, but your thing says male, and if you've got boobs and blah, 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 maybe just having trans written on that, it would make life easier for just everyone involved. No more questions asked. Blam, we all know. Cool. So I can see that, how that's a better thing. But having female on there when you're not female, it's just a lie.
And they all tell you they're trans anyway. So why doesn't it say transgender female? They all tell you they're trans because they want the agency that gives them.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing as
they
well.
insist on being female. It's
When we say they're trans, we're told we're othering them. But then they'll say I'm trans.
They wear the flags. They have them in their bios.
No.
It's the first thing they go, did you know I'm trans? And I'm like, I've been talking to you for 10 minutes and I knew the second you walked up to me, you know?
Yeah, I've not met, I mean, I've met like so many in person, like through all of this. There's not one person where I've been like, oh, I have no idea.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Like even, the idea that, when there's some that will say, oh, you've been sharing your bathrooms for decades with trans people. No, we haven't.
But even though, like in the past, I would have shared a bathroom in a nightclub with a trans identifying male. Now I won't anymore.
You knew that he was there.
Yeah.
That's the
and
point.
There's also, if they're advocating for trans rights and they're including AGPs as well as their own rights, then no. Because if transsexuals are saying that all these other men who identify into the trans umbrella are welcome in their spaces. No, none of them are. Not one.
Are you saying like what do you mean?
Well, no trans identified males are coming into female spaces. In the past, okay. I would have let them. In the past, I would have let the fully transitioned, had the surgery. I would have said, yeah, I don't mind if you come in here while I'm in here. Just for me personally, in the past, I would have said, yeah, sure. Now, none of you are coming in.
I was talking about this with Edie and Kit actually earlier today. I was saying that, when they say, oh, for decades, you've been fine with it. So once upon a time, like before this crazy gender identity social contagion, it really was, we're talking about a really small percentage of the population who actually transitioned in any meaningful way and like legally or whatever. And so even if like in Australia, there might have only been like, today I use the example of 5, but let's say 50 women in Australia who had to share their bathrooms. And so we can all sit there and go, oh, there was no problems. How do we know for those 50 women who no one would listen to, who had to sit there and either self-segregate or just suck it up and be uncomfortable with it, lie to themselves, all those sorts of things in the 90s, 80s and 90s. And now they're going, oh, no, but then no one cared. Yeah, I'm sure there were women who did care. We just didn't listen to them.
Yeah, and the older lesbians will tell you that
women, all you're proving is women haven't been listened to. And if we listened to them, and if we also especially listen to lesbians a lot sooner than what we are, what we are, society still isn't, but we wouldn't have even gotten here. They knew, they were sounding the alarm.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just think that any of those sort of like examples of, oh yeah, like you've been doing, it's been happening for decades. It's like, yeah, cool. Okay. So we're aware that men have been abusing women's boundaries for longer than decades. Saying new information, but we're also just like, no, you're just not making the positive point you think you are. Yeah. You're saying women have been silenced for longer than we know.
Yep. You said something interesting in a space. I think it was in a space. Oh, and we were talking on YouTube. God, I watched so many things. I have trouble remembering which one they were. But you were saying that the whole concept of gender identity has proven to you more than ever of how divided the sexes are in that ideology, like how sexist it is and how stereotypical, like the double standards for men and women as evidenced in this ideology.
So it proves gender identity actually proves the reality of biological sex in so many ways. So first of all, the reasons why men or women transition are completely congruent with their sex. And then also why they transition is as well. Then how they're celebrated while transitioned. So men who transition and claim to be women, I don't get the word transition. They haven't transitioned to anything.
Yeah.
It's just a claim transition. Yeah, it's just so men who claim to be women will get, stunning and brave, and here's jobs and political positions, and here's awards and races to win. Women who claim to be men, we only hear about them when they're pregnant.
That's true.
It's just good old-fashioned sexism. They are in media, they are in society in general, is not treating these people in the way that you would expect if they actually thought they had changed sex.
Trans men, no one screaming out trans men are men. It's all trans women are women.
There's a reason why they never led with trans men and men, because no one's going to believe it. Like, they don't listen to women at the best of times. And no man is being forced to believe trans men are men other than gay men. There is obviously that section, but it's even there. It's even just different to how, like, they're not leading with it. They went with lesbians first.
There were no trans men trying to punch police horses to get through to us women. No, I didn't see any.
Yeah. I did see a story though today on Daily Mail, so grain of salt, but no, it was just one of their like sensational stories of, they do their absurd ones. A trans man has been charged because he put his prosthetic, he like obviously was drunk. I'm saying she was drunk, put her prosthetic penis in a pint, bashed like a security guard or something, just like in a pub in England or something. I was just like reading it going like, oh God, testosterone must be one hell of a drug. Prosthetic dick, like, oh,
yuck.
like I'm not this like prudish person. I
am
in reality. I just want to live in reality. I just don't see success stories here at all.
Yeah, no, the things that I see, like this morning I got up to and I checked my inbox and there was a message and it was just violent porn, so I'm so like becoming so vanilla because I live in a world where these sick freaks are, and I mean, usually heterosexual male freaks who are porn sick. That's what I mean when I say freaks. I just think it's okay to send a random middle-aged stranger a bunch of violent pornography. Like, it's just nuts. And it's been making me become quite happy to be vanilla and prudish.
In today's version of vanilla, which was probably 40 years ago, we were just so wild and crazy. But yeah, I'm proud of it. No, can't like sex shame me at this point. Absolutely no way. I mean, that comes with age as well. But I just think that, what we're all being asked to believe is so ridiculous that you just can't do it.
True. Some local women took a stand this week, made it into the ABC where they were misrepresented. Some local women in Ballarat sent a message outside the ABC in Ballarat about the way it has reported on Kelly J's visit, and the way it's so biased, and that it's only posting pro-trans propaganda, and it even mentioned that Dan Andrews lied, and the ABC perpetuated those lies, and so they did a nice little chalking all over the footpath, and the ABC, rather than show images of what was written and accurately report the message that was being sent to them via this chalk, they got a local trans identified person on to talk about how awful it is for the trans community that someone wrote with chalk on the footpath.
I will say the picture that ABC ran with, one of the thing that was the most in focus was one of the things they'd written was like, do some real journalism or something.
Yeah, but they made it
goal that we were talking about earlier. I was like, just like, you didn't take photos from any other angle.
And the legends also put there was also a sign up on an overpass as well that they put up there. What was that?
I saw that. Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the things is for all women in Australia, when we've got captured media like this, keep doing it, because it's not the end of the world that they write these stories, they're siding with, they're on the ridiculous, because people are still seeing the images and then they're reading it, and more people than not, I think, are going, hang on, something doesn't add up here.
Well, the women, in Ballarat, lesbians have been kicked out of the LGBTQ plus groups.
Yeah, Ballarat is bizarrely captured.
Yeah, well, there's one of the militant members of the Greens lives in Ballarat, and he's the one that was friends with. We did a Turf Talk episode on it. That was friends with Amy Chandler over in the UK.
Yeah.
He's there, and he is the one that goes into all the local governments and puts in their diversity and inclusion programs. And he's a militant trans rights activist.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I blocked him.
A lot of women in Ballarat really, really uncomfortable. And, he targets them personally, and he gets away with it, even with his dubious past. So
I think all Australian women keep doing stuff like this. Keep the overpass signs are great. The chalk outside things, like finding those press opportunities where like the media will comment on it. Keep doing these like really great little protests like this. It's inspiring, it's encouraging, it's all going in the right direction. And even if at the moment they like write it as if, Nazi fascists, whatever, and they don't like ask us for comments or anything like that, it's okay. I have a lot of trust in how smart a lot of people, just regular people, actually just are, because we've all been peaked. We're all just regular people who've been peaked. There's just more regular people like us who'll be peaked. So you just have to get to them. Like
I'm astonished how many women have contacted all of us in the last few weeks. Like Kelly J did achieve her objective, even though she would never have achieved.
It's like, not only do I have like so many more Twitter followers, I just have like 1,000 new friends. Actual friends. Like now that I have so many more conversations that I'm having.
Yeah, my phone rings nonstop. Like, and who uses phones these days? But I found a whole bunch of women. They ring each other and check in on each other.
Yeah, no.
And, invitations to go out for dinner and lunch, and and there's just random women that are
like, yes. Some days now I actually have like a few hours where I'm just like phoned. I can't even. Like, there's just so much, and I need a break from responding. Like, just not that I don't want it. Like, I love it all, but it's just you just have to take that moment for yourself, because you're like, oh God.
That's old school, and I'd missed that. Because I'm like I don't know. I'm a bit of a I like to be alone, and I'm a bit of an introvert too. I do spend a bit too much time alone, and so I kind of realised that I'd missed the phone conversations, and hey, do you want to catch up on Tuesday, whatever? Because we haven't been able to.
We're doing a thing. There's a group of us that we're doing, like real life, like turf meetups, but to get bookings, we just call it book club.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, because if you call up and like, guys, want a booking for a bunch of turfs.
Yeah.
It's just like someone's book club. And so we get the table that we want, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's great. Like all of these women that we're meeting, we all travel to meet. It's been like the silver lining of this nonsense is like the blessing of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think peak trans is here. I think the reason that the violence has escalated and the accusations are flying is because they're in the corner. And
completely agree with you. I think that just got a drink for it. I think that it's going to feel like it's getting worse before it gets better. Yeah, it's definitely getting better.
Like when you've got the flu and you've got to go to that peak, you're getting worse and worse, and you go, oh, I'm getting really, really, really sick. And then you go, oh, and then you have a sleep, and then all of a sudden you feel better. It's a bit like that.
When I was younger, actually, if we want to talk about like bullying and things like that, I didn't get crazy badly bullied at high school, but there was a little bit in grade 8. I got glasses and braces in the same week. So it was traumatic.
Yeah. Bad.
I remember my dad saying to me one day, I was like crying about it. He was like, you've got a really great personality. And I was like, oh my God, I'm hideous. But I remember him telling me one time, he was like, sometimes you have to take one step back to take 2 steps forward. And so that's sometimes how it will feel. You feel like you're just taking a step back to take 2 foot, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of those few days following the Kelly J Melbourne thing. That was the step back. It felt like it. It was really, really daunting and traumatic for a lot of us because we were sitting there going, we're not Nazis. I mean, if we were, wouldn't have we been celebrating it? Like, anyway, enough logic for these idiots. But now when we're seeing how it's all playing out, that more people are realizing what's happening, more people are realizing they're being lied to on a grand scale, it's backfiring. And, you know, we're playing the long game here as well. And we're the ones with reality on our side, and we've not told any lies. It's going to work really well for us. But if you've got to sit there and defend why you called women who just want female in this space as Nazis, you're in a precarious situation, and you might fight a lot to make people not ask you any questions about that, and that you are not in a situation where you've got to be asked questions about it. It all comes back to bite you in the ass, doesn't it? You know, like we're over here actually just living authentically and you know, trying to build a society based on truth. And when that's what you're trying to do, there's no real gotchas. They've got to invent them.
We're not asking for anything that we didn't already have. We've had something taken away from us.
There's no like, I'm like, someone, you know, I'm sure you've had it as well. You know, when you get accused of being radicalized online, I'm like, radicalized online to think that there are only 2 sexes. Like I already knew that before the internet was even invented.
Some of the anti-fascist idiots are saying, oh, you know, oh yeah, and she came out as a TERF, and it's like, I've always been a TERF. You knew I was a feminist. I've been a feminist my whole life. Everyone who knows me as a feminist. And all of a sudden,
anybody who knows how babies are made is a TERF. Anybody who knows that. Everyone has a line. Anyone who thinks like you know, because some people might go like, oh, I'm all in on that. Like, you know what? Definitely, like put the male boxer in a ring with a female boxer. I think that's fantastic. I'm sure there's someone like that, but then they might go, oh, but the prisoners, that's my line. Everyone has a line. Everyone is a TERF. Even trans women. And you know they are, because they do their stupid lesbian dating profiles and they say natal women only. They won't even date trans women because they're not homosexual.
Because they're AGPs.
Yeah, they're just straight men.
Oh man. Oh well, we've been talking for quite a while.
Hopefully everyone listening. You know what? I always listen to this while I go for a walk with Belle every day. And so I love a podcast where I can just like keep walking, and I'm like, okay, I've got like an hour and a half of like entertainment here. Cool.
Yeah. I usually listen to Dennis and Clive when I'm on my way to the Queen's Speech, when I'm on my way to work. It's just my routine. And if they don't have a new one before, because like this particular job, I work 2 jobs, and this one's on this particular day of the week. And if they are late, I have a bad drive to work.
My new thing is listening to Twitter Spaces in the car. Actually, whenever like there's like if there's like an Aussie TERFs or just something, Twitter Space, like I don't speak or anything, but I'll just be listening, because it's like public broadcast radio that's just female only, just talking about women's issues. It's lovely, and all these insanely smart women just talking about stuff and giving their ideas and opinions. It's where's this been all my life?
Yeah, I listen to the Scottish women in the morning because I love their accents.
I love it. I also love the Irish accent. Like an Irish person could tell me to go fuck myself, and I'm like, oh, say it again. Just love it. It's like like Sinead Watson, whenever she does stuff, I could listen to her read the phone book.
Yeah.
Because I said that she says that, you know, her voice changed from transition and everything. But I was like, I find her voice and accent so soothing. I just love it so much.
She's great.
I'm
I had someone show me some comments tonight that we were in a space today, and apparently my voice sounds like, what was it, a cockatoo with something stuck in its throat or something like that. And
it's so mean to you.
Oh, look, they're relentless. But and I just said, look, this is a working class Australian woman's accent. It's nothing weird. And it's the fact that they don't know that this is like, I've got my accent is common in the place that I grew up in.
Yeah.
The fact that I know that just, that just proves that these wankers are like middle-class kids with
Oh,
luxury bullets.
yeah, they're fucking idiots. I have a bastardized accent. I lived in London for a bit. I lived in the US for 10 years. And then also I just had a dad that anytime he was big on like clear pronunciation with me
Yeah.
my life, but then he wasn't with my brother. So my brother's really awkward sounding.
See, my accent.
My brother portrays himself as this like Aussie battler, and we're like, what are you battling? Like,
No, see, my parents were English and we grew up with the Queen's English and we got bashed for it at school. So yeah, got smacked out of you. So I developed this like ochre sort of, g'day, mate, as like a contrast to the way that my parents spoke. So
and then, my other thing was that, I was a professional writer. And even before I was doing screenwriting, when I was doing journalism for a bit, I was freelancing. And the company I worked for was an American company. And so I had to do American spelling. So I've been doing American spelling now. What am I? I'm 38 now. I started doing it, 23. I mean, basically my whole adult life. I actually can't remember how to do Australian or British spelling on stuff because I would get in so much trouble if I did when I did. So I just got it out of me. So there's just, I'm really Americanized in that respect.
That'd be handy on Twitter because I keep getting Americans coming in and correcting my spelling and I'm going, no, this is English.
Well, I just get a lot of people actually don't realize I'm Australian.
Oh.
Yeah. And then like I get a lot of people all the time that they'll say things about like American law to me and I'm like, oh honey, not my country. I'm not there. My country.
Now that I know my accent triggers people, I'm going to even ramp it up a bit, mate.
You go cockatoo around the place and it's hilarious.
Yeah. Speaking of triggering, I made a post this week about my Patreon, which
let's wrap it up with this one. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, they can, donate, $5 a month to support, my activism or like I've mentioned here before that last month, my patrons paid for the DAO to hold all the flags and signs that we had at the event, which DAO's really expensive, So everything goes back into turfing in some way. So I said thank you on Twitter, and I had people not just call me a grifter and a moocher and a scumbag and a grifter. No, we knew that this was why you became a turf, so you could mooch money from people.
Yeah, this lucrative industry.
Heads, like it's so lucrative. But then they started going after people that donated to me. So I took my post down because I don't want them going after people who are kind enough to give me $5 a month, But
a few things on it. Okay, first of all, women's time is valuable and we're doing real serious work here. And any woman who finds a way to monetize the work she is doing, I don't think we have to justify it in any way. I don't even think you have to put it back in to turfing if you don't want. I mean, it is a lot of it goes into like travel costs of when like I'm going up to Brisbane or things like that. Or it can even be, paying for the dinner that we all have together or something like that. Like it's going back into it in some way if it's not like directly an activism thing. This stuff is really expensive. And we're all doing work. We're all like so many of us doing it for free. But I think if every single woman doing it could find a way to monetize it and earn some money from it, because we should be paid for our time. Cool. I mean, Jordan Peterson from saying no to pronouns has become a multimillionaire from it.
Yeah.
No one's dragging Joe Rogan down for having 100 more, some people are, but you know what I mean? Like he's
trigonometry boys. All the men monetized it.
When with women, we're supposed to just do shit for free. And it's not, we have men that come after us at it, but it's always this like demographic of women that do as well. So you're just getting it from all angles. And it's just like, fuck off. We're gonna earn a living, thanks. Like gender ideology has like derailed my business. People don't even know what my life has been like for the last 3.5 years. I run a startup. I don't run like a conglomerate. And so when you're dealing with startup world, I mean, you struggle in a startup world in normal circumstances. I read an article recently of like, there was actually a woman that was saying like, apparently there's some people that think if you run a startup, you should pay yourself 120 grand a year. And this woman wrote this article going like, well, I can't live on that. That's just unrealistic. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I don't think I've not earned 120 grand from my startup in 3 years. Like,
there's quite a number of women who, because of their profile, their public profile as a TERF, are unable to work in the industries that they've worked in.
And I'm unemployable. I'm unemployable in most industries, like what I'm trained for. I mean, maybe Sky News would, because I have a master's degree in journalism, like that would probably be the one place. But I mean, no, I have my job. I want to see my startup through. I'm going to make a success of this. I'm no doubt about that. But the risk, the expense of it, like what it's done to our lives, the struggle, I just don't, to be honest, I just don't talk about it. It's not, I don't make it anybody else's problem. I've just worked it all out on my own. It's just my own thing.
Yeah. And my choices, are pretty much self-employment or nothing. So, because now you put my name into Google.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean,
and I'm lucky, but I had to go and go back to study, and my study's gone down the toilet. I haven't picked up my, I haven't done any study for months.
Well, honestly, to be honest, I actually don't even think you need to. I think you're just getting more real world experience now, more than what a degree would be. But I understand what you're saying, though. But I mean, like, I don't begrudge any woman from going and earning money from this or anything in general, you know what I mean? But like, and it's like, if you hate like the platform, like the public platform that I've built, like in terms of Twitter, and you really don't like how I'm doing it, just do it better than me.
Yeah. I mean,
if you win, if you think I'm doing it so wrong, and you go and do it how you think is right, and you end up winning, and you stop gender ideology, and you get female in these spaces back for us, I will, all credit to you. I will thank you. Yeah. Just do it. I just don't sit there tearing us down. Just go and do it better.
And the people criticizing us are the ones supporting people, kids having double mastectomies. They're putting, money into crowdfunders for kids to have double mastectomies, while expecting us to do all this for free,
Exactly. Like, I mean, yeah, that was the thing. I knew that for us with our crowdfunder that we would go, on GoFundMe, which will allow, young girls to go on there and fundraise from this double mastectomies, but I can't fundraise to, fight for female only spaces. But then I will say this. I respect GoFundMe's right to run their business how they want. The same right.
Yeah.
So if you're going to kick me off, okay, I'll go create my own platform.
Yeah.
Let me have the right as well to say no to men. That's it. They're saying no to certain opinions. I'm just saying no to one sex class. That's it. Nothing personal. I'm just a dude.
Yeah. On that note, let's finish on a high. No, I'm chuffed about your fundraiser. I think this is such an important case, and people really need to get behind you a little bit every so often. Adds up to a lot. If a lot of people get behind
it does. Like, I don't want, like, I resent that women have to go and pay this amount of money to get women back in the Sex Discrimination Act, but that's an issue for another day, and maybe we can all just go and sue the country for our money back. But I would prefer it if this was one with, $20 donations from thousands upon thousands of women.
Yeah.
Because like, we want lots of women being aware of what's happening and supporting and fighting for their own rights. I don't want some money bags to come along. Well, it would make it easier and less stressful, of course. I don't want some money bags person to come along and be like, here, I'll just foot the bill.
Yeah. I agree.
Even though I don't, it's hard because I don't want to put the financial burden on just all of us. Every cost of living is increasing, blah, blah, blah. Life is expensive. And someone said today it's a turf tax we all have to pay. And I love that. It is. It's just this turf tax. They're all donating to everybody's crowdfunders. But I just think there is something in it of that real grassroots thing of like, just, if all you can do is $10, like, no judgment. there's been times where that's all I could do.
Yeah, same.
So for some people's, and you just go here, like have what would be, 2 drinks or whatever, 2 coffees sort of thing. And I'll yeah, we've all done that, and like made different choices about it. And it's just that's what changes it. Or, if you can't financially contribute to it, just talk about it with other people and make them aware of what's going on, because that's almost the most valuable thing.
And share the fundraiser. If you can't afford to put in, share it and share it again.
Yeah. I talked in Twitter space recently, and I was saying, like, the number one thing, like we're all getting together, all of us, like, we're doing stuff, we're all getting together and meeting, and that's fantastic. We have to keep doing that because it's really, really fun. Bunch of drinkers, it's great. I'm a huge fan. But think of people in your life who aren't, on like peaked and realize what's going on yet, and peak them.
Yeah.
Take the risk with some people. Like I was like, work out which ones are the most likely and the least likely, and start with the most likely, and the least likely they might get there on their own, or they just sort of never will. But we can't just sit there all the time preaching to the choir. We need to just be getting more and more women involved in it.
I had a stack of posters outside my front door on the front deck, because it was undercover for ages, and the one in front says lesbians don't do penis, and I swear every single person that drove up the drive was peaked, because they go, what the F is that about? And it was because I forgot it was there, really, because I'm going in and out the door not really thinking about it. And everyone from the postie, like, just friends, like relatives, everyone who came up my drive asked me about that, and I said, well, this is what's happening to lesbians. And they learned something new.
Like, even do things like I've done it twice now. Print off, like, just write, like, just a flyer type thing, really easy, like to a page, like on an A4 page thing, of just the important points of what's going on. Cut it in 2. You've got 100 of them. Just put it in letterboxes. No one knows it's you. Put it old school things like that. People either read it or they don't. But you just get even one person from there going, hey, what's actually going on? They go and research, because this issue is that important. It's not just female-only spaces in sport and protecting children. All these are really big things. It's basic truth and reality. Even men have the right to say that it's a man standing in front of them. Also, trans people have that right too.
I get 200 business cards from Vistaprint with little messages on them.
Yeah, no, they're great. Yeah.
Stickers, as long as it's nothing too controversial, they'll still print it.
Yeah, actually, I've got a bunch of Giggle crowdfunder business cards, so if anybody wants some, I've got so many of them. Contact me and I'll send them to you. I'll send you a bunch.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, I better get these animals out of here. I think they've all passed out around me. I don't know where the black cat's gone. He could be anywhere here. He could be here. You can't see.
9 p.m. on a Saturday. I've got to go and have my last drink for the night, and then I'm going to sleep.
Well, yeah, I bought myself some chocolate this evening.
Oh, nice.
So just a tiny bit, because I'm hoping my daughter brings me an Easter egg, because I'm a vegan, like all Nazis. Because I'm vegan, I don't get to guts all the chocolate at Easter. So my eldest daughter's also vegan, and what usually happens is she turns up and gives me an Easter egg, and I give her an Easter egg, and so we may as well just buy ourselves Easter eggs. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to see her.
I've eaten so much chocolate in the last 3 days that I'm almost like, tomorrow is in no way exciting. So over it.
My daughter won one of the Easter raffles at school, and by the time she got in the car, she already had it around her face and had, 2 or 3 eggs. So so they'll be completely buzzing at their dad's house this week. So yeah. But no, thank you so much for joining me, Sal.
Thank you so much. I always love chatting with you.
Yeah. I've been a bit behind with the Turf Talk, and
you know what, though, I was thinking just before, our conversations on Turf Talk are almost identical to when we're just talking on the phone.
Yeah,
probably. I don't. My tone or there's nothing censored. I talk exactly the same way. I was like, we should just record our phone conversation.
Yeah, we should. It's funny because people say, oh, you go and do some media training and go, but I don't want to change. I just want to be myself, and if people want to watch this, they're mad enough to watch me sitting talking to my friends or to new friends or new people, then good on them.
The last thing that we need is more like media trained, like the talk, like saying what people think they should hear stuff. No, we have some real stuff. That's what this world is screaming out for. It's just real stuff.
Yeah, real people. And that's why I think Moira Deeming's such a threat to these politicians. I think because she's a real person, you know. And I'm going to stop qualifying that with, oh, I don't agree with everything that she says. I'm going to say, no, she's a person with integrity, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the reason all of this really kicked off, because, you know, she stands up for the same things that we stand up for, is the truth.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I agree.
Cool. Thanks, Sall. Hope you hit all your goals with the crowdfunder. We'll keep plugging it until you've got all the money that you need.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and everyone, if you'd please like to like, subscribe, share, you know, that'd be fantastic. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.